you. Let's dance!
I'm on it, Black Shoe!
Time to strike!
You think you can outshoot me?
Captain Chemo on duty!
Delta Sierra at 12 o'clock!
Dust 'em, Pix!
Nothing a little gunpowder won't fix.
Good afternoon and welcome to the first official Riot Games Campus League in Singapore. Teams from Singapore's top tertiary institutions have been battling it out for the past couple of months to fight for a chance to represent their school on a national level and stand a chance to be called the champions of the Wild Rift Campus League summer season. I am Gerard, Escape Artist, and I'm joined by Grandin Gaminism O, and we're going to be your casters for today. Before we get into game, let's talk a little bit about the format that's been happening so far. All the matches that have been played previously were completed in an upper bracket best of 3 and a lower bracket best of 1 format, and the best teams from 3 of Singapore's top tertiary institutions have battled it out in the playoffs, and right now we are at the grand finals, which is going to be the Kerry Fan Club going up against NUSNEXTBUS.
Yeah, it's quite interesting to see because Kerry Fan Club actually dropped them out in the semifinals, so NUSNEXTBUS had to play out from the lower brackets, go through the semifinals there, win the loser finals, and then finally come back into the grand finals where they're gonna be playing a bit of a grudge match, and it is still gonna be a best of 3. So anything could happen. This is not a lot of time to experiment. You kind of have to bring your A game right away.
Absolutely, and since Kerry Fan Club have taken a BO3 off NUSNEXTBUS before, of course, they would be perhaps the ones with the mental advantage, but NUSNEXTBUS definitely can come back in this one and show the Kerry Fan Club that, hey, maybe we should have been the ones who won the semifinals in the first place. Of course, the tournament wouldn't be complete without our sponsors. It is, of course, presented by 100 Plus, the official beverage sponsor of the Campus League. Up your hydration game with 100 Plus. It aids in replenishing lost fluids, energy, and electrolytes to combat the effects of dehydration, heat, and exertion, and it enables individuals to achieve peak performance in their daily active lifestyle. And if your daily active lifestyle, of course, is playing League of Legends Wild Rift, then take a sip of 100 Plus, and hey, who knows, maybe you'll reach a new top rank. Of course, this tournament is also organized by Elephant, the official partners of Riot Games in Singapore. And speaking of official partners, we have Secretlab, our official chair partner. And if you are getting any back pains from carrying heavy teammates, hey, why not do it in comfort with Secretlab chair for yourself, so that you can climb up those ranks while feeling comfortable about your gaming position, I guess, and just not feeling any unnecessary pains or aches while you get to that new rank. And of course, we have the prizes as well, which are Secretlab chairs, 5 of them only for first place, along with $650, and for second place they do get $450 for themselves, third place $150. So right now these teams are really playing for these Secretlab gaming chairs for that amazing comfort, and with that we'll be heading into the draft soon. But for now, what do we really expect to see from today? What are your thoughts, Grandin?
Well, judging by how things have been going with the Wild Rift meta now, we've seen a lot of adaptation. I think there have been some feedback that it's a little bit difficult to kind of pinpoint where your opponents are going to go early on. So we've seen a bit of a meta where you bring in the Baron laners or the Dragon laners, maybe sometimes the jungler, but usually jungler comes a bit after, where they just kind of crash in the mid wave. And so it kind of depends on how well they've been able to adapt to the meta that's kind of been formed a bit over time in a little bit more of a professional setting. We did see some previous Riot tournaments for Wild Rift recently. I think that kind of sets the tone and the precedent for how some of these matches are going to go. Talking about peak performance lifestyle, gotta have mine. I'm gonna have a drink of this too. It's quite nice, having the competition come about. Being able to involve the tertiary education level too, because it's not always that you get to compete on a higher professional stakes. Just having these opportunities to come in and play together with your friends, go for these competitions, and it's been growing quite well, I would say. So regardless of what the outcome is, whichever team wins, whether it's going to be NUS or it's going to be NTU, I still think that it's been a great chance for them to come in here. Of course, you want to get the nice gaming shares at the end of the day. So that being said, it's definitely something exciting to watch out for.
Yep, that's right. Of course, it is a more professional setting, and as you mentioned, these opportunities don't come around very often for these tertiary institutions, so it's really good that they exist. Of course, this is the first one, the first tournament, this Campus League summer season, and we're already at the grand finals, and I'm sure it's been a great experience for all these teams. Of course, we're gonna be let's talk a little bit about this new patch here, patch 2.3b. That's the most recent patch in Wild Rift. So some buffs and nerfs coming in as well. Irelia being a huge win on the buff side, and Garrett getting absolutely gutted.
Well, yeah. I think even if you kind of bring like, okay, yeah, it's been gutted, it's kind of weaker now, I don't think you have to be all too concerned about the Garen, because Garen's role and kind of purpose in lane is exactly such, right? He's not there to do damage. A lot of his the nerfs were based around his Q, rather around his judgment and the mass injustice. But if you take a look at it from the bigger picture, what Garen kind of fulfills in that space is he comes in to deal with first off heavy bruisers that have a lot of spell rotations. Champions like Akali, like Darius, he kind of comes in to play there. Of course, reducing some of this damage means it reduces kind of the kill potential, but at the same time, most high-level Wild Rift games, you don't really expect to be able to solo kill your opponent that much anyway, so the damage shouldn't make that big of a difference, especially in the early game, which is marginally nerfed, but I don't think it's that big of an issue. Overall, though, I still expect to see Garen as an option, but I feel like with choices like Gragas, with Akali, with Darius, it just feels a little bit difficult to justify bringing Garen into play when there are better options that you want to first pick early. Even champions like the Camille, Jarvan have come and made a resurgence in the top lane, in the Baron lane, where they previously been played probably in the jungle. You know, haven't really seen much Baron play. But coming into this, with how we've seen 2.3B play out, I could see something along those lines happening.
And that's right. Some other changes include 3 mid laners losing 5 armors, so that does buff up some of those AD mid lanes. You might see a resurgence of some of those. Of course, as I mentioned, Irelia as well did receive a very nice buff, and I've heard that she's kind of hard to play, so perhaps this would bring her up maybe to the S tier and really help people out in mastering her.
Giving them giving them something a little easier to work with. I kind of want to talk a little bit about just the competition in general. You know, Campus League summer season. We're already into the grand finals, right? And it's a great step forward, I think, for a lot of people to be able to get into having some level of competition to play for. And it's a way to kind of like get into the next stage of competition, right? Be able to play in the you know, we have fall qualifiers coming up pretty soon, and then after that we have the regional tournament, and then there's plans for a global tournament for Wild Rift at the end of the year. You know, these kind of give some format and some context for teams and players to get accustomed to competing, which allows them to, you know, find new talent. You breed new talent and on this smaller scale, and then as it grows up, as it grows and as more are introduced, you know, you find better talent, which is what I think kind of the point of the Campus League is, right? On one hand, yeah, you know, you come in to play together with friends, to have a good time, you know, maybe get a prize, maybe get a chunk of that prize pool. But at the end of the day, I think it's a great experience to be able to come in this competitive format where it's structured, where it's laid out, and there's something to play for. And so you have, you know, you get to dedicate time to scrims, to practice. And for every team that's made it this far, I don't doubt that they put in a lot of effort to actually work on the game, work on the mechanics, their team macro, because I think that's what's going to set the difference, right? How well you're able to play as a team is going to be ultimately what impacts and what's going to determine the ultimate victor for this competition.
Yeah, absolutely, and it does also help to really bridge the gap between those pros that you see on your screens in the more professional tournaments, and of course just a random solo queue, because it allows you to get that kind of feel. And hey, maybe you might, who knows, in training for the Campus League, you might end up training for attempting to qualify for the fall season as well, and that would of course allow you to really do something that otherwise you would not really think that you would want to do, and give you a new experience. And of course, overall, it's just really great and a lot of good fun as well to just play with your friends. I mean, personally, I've joined other campus esports tournaments before, and it's really been a great experience. Made a lot of new friends from those, and unfortunately didn't win any prizes, but still, it was a great experience.
I think that's part of the idea behind Campus League, right? Being able to give this opportunity to new players.
Well, we are here in the draft right now. We'll be getting Garen back in a second. But yeah. Yes, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Granted, how are you feeling? You okay there?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling fine. You know, pretty excited to see how the finals gonna pan out. It is going to be another best of 3. Pretty quick.
Well, things are looking a little sketchy right now. We'll be back in a second. Let's just take a look at that format once again here. It is again the Kerry Fan Club going up against NUSNEXTBUS, and Kerry Fan Club are from NTU, and NUSNEXTBUS of course is from NUS, and Kerry Fan Club have taken 2 series before, one in the semi-finals where they beat NUSNEXTBUS 2-1, so it was a close series. And then the winners finals as well, where they took the series 2-0. And NUSNEXTBUS had to climb back up from the lower bracket to get themselves to this grand finals. And hey, we're here in the draft right now. You can see that Kerry Fan Club for now, they've got their bans down. They've banned out the Ziggs as well as the Camille. Over on the side of NUSNEXTBUS, they have taken away that Seraphine. Of course, the Camille, one of these very... Oh, granted.
So Ziggs, Camille, as bans have been pretty straightforward, and we've seen a lot of the reason why. There's been a lot of examples as to why you have to get rid of the Ziggs, right? Ziggs is such a powerful kind of mid laner who's able to do significant damage to these targets. And so we've seen some level of diversity, you know, between teams that are more based around macro, that want to try and siege in quickly. You know, being able to use the Ziggs helps them open up the map quickly. They get a lot of gold off of the turrets going down. There have been some changes so that it's more based around localized gold as opposed to global gold. But still, you know, just with the Ziggs, you can snowball so quickly, get a lot of damage. Their Super Mega Inferno Bomb gives them so much information as well, because you can use that, plant that towards, you know, those major choke points, or even towards the Baron, the Dragon, to be able to find out if your opponents have started that and are looking to go and pick that up. So a lot of reason and a lot of sense why Ziggs and Camille have been banned out. Camille has been such a big enabler for picks like Galio, for Jarvan. Being able to lock down on a carry on the enemy side has been so impactful.
Yeah, that's right. And on the other side, we do have a Seraphine ban as well. Seraphine able to set up those big major team fights with her ultimate. That really does help out as well. And the second ban is Galio, even though you don't see it on the screen. And Galio is a part of the Camille-Galio combo, and one side is taking away the Camille, so the other side chooses to take away the Galio. Very strong flex lane as well, can go basically anywhere except for jungle, so really allows for a large amount of global presence, but that's taken off the table. For the blue team, Kerry Fan Club, they're going to pick up the Tristana, and NUSNEXTBUS do go for the Braum.
Yeah, I've opted for Tristana first pick, which I'm not a big fan of. I feel like there have been better options that have presented themselves to the blue side. So Kerry Fan Club could have gone for something like the Gragas, you know, something along those lines, which could have had more impact. We've even seen things like first pick Lee Sin because of how well and how aggressive they are, you can perform as a jungler. You know, going for the Tristana kind of gives me an idea to what Kerry Fan Club has to play. If they're opting to these AD carries as their primary choices, it kind of worries me a little bit, because if you're so dependent and so reliant on that single AD carry, that single marksman in the dragon lane, then it could be a little problematic. Of course, we'll have to see what the adaptation from NUSNEXTBUS is going to be. So far, the Mundo and Nami pickup, okay, Nami pairs pretty well with Tristana. It's a lot of damage. It does manage to suppress and hold down the lanes pretty well. But Mundo coming in here could be an interesting choice. Mundo does not really have much crowd control, isn't all too great at being able to deal with a couple of these matchups. You know, it has had some issues before when it tries to go up against some quote-unquote better laners, you know, some more oppressive type laners, and Mundo just generally has those issues to deal with. Looking to see what NUSNEXTBUS have gonna picked up as well.
Yeah, right now we do see that NUSNEXTBUS, they pick up the Olaf from themselves. Olaf could go into the jungle, could go into a solo lane. NUS's second pick as well is Renekton, and they have that Lux as well. So the team really starting to come together. That's gonna be a Lux in the mid lane most likely as well.
We're kind of fleshing out what the kind of team composition is going to be. We've seen some level of the unkillable Olaf comp back into the Summer Super Cup and the SSC, so we've seen what Olaf can do, but I think generally most people that have watched and have kind of analyzed the game don't feel like Olaf is in the best spot right now, because you have options like the Jarvan available, and it's so easy to lock down the Olaf. Olaf doesn't really have much more he can do. When it's locked in the Cataclysm, he expands a large chunk of his Ragnarok. If he uses his flash, then he's kind of committed to go in. You know, if at least he had his flash, you could try to jump in, try and run in and then do some damage, maybe get a solo kill and then flash out. Those are some options that he would have, but with the Java, it's very easy to counter that. As for the Lux, could go in the mid lane. I feel like it probably could go towards support. Some form of Enchanter does well against the Nami. Otherwise, you run the risk of just being taken down quickly. Triple marksman comp from Kerry Fan Club. The Varus locked in at the end there. I mean, we've seen lots of Corki being played. The fact now that they've gone for the triple marksman, I'm excited to see what their allocations are gonna be.
Yeah, this is a very interesting stuff right here. Tristana, Corki, and the Varus as well. NUSNEXTBUS, according to what we're seeing here, they do pick up the Jarvan to round up their comp, so they have a very tanky composition compared to what we're seeing on the side of Kerry Fan Club, where we see 3 of these AD carries, 1 Nami and 1 tanky Mundo.
The problem we have to watch out for Kerry Fan Club is how they disengage. Okay, sure, we have some CC in the Corrupting Chains. Nami should be able to provide some form of disengage, and you have the Buster Shot. Those are 3 spells that you have to be able to effectively deal with the engage coming in from NUSNEXTBUS. So take a look towards the engage they have. The Ragnarok cannot be stopped. Flag and Drag is oftentimes too quick to be able to react to. The Cataclysm can lock you down. And you look at the Braum with the Glacial Fissure, great use to engage or disengage. So with all these tools in place, NUSNEXTBUS, it feels like they have a composition that's better suited to deal with the threats that have been presented by Kerry Fan Club. Whereas for the red side, for the blue side, they might have better dueling potential, better trading potential in lane and once into the mid game. But then there are of course going to be some dynamic changes going through that as well.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if they actually have a triple AD carry comp though. As you can see, the Corki pick, it appears that we are having some issues with the picks and bans, but we'll get those sorted. Yeah, I don't think you run a triple AD carry comp on one side and no AD carries on the other side. That's just a little too risky. For now, it looks like it's going to be a Tristana and a Nami for the side of Kerry Fan Club. They are the ones with the Olaf as well as the Lux, and over on the side of NUSNEXTBUS, they have the Braum, the Renekton, Corki, Varus, as well as the Jarvan.
Okay, so similar position as before. So NUSNEXTBUS, we've seen a lot of Corki mid being played. It kind of accelerates the game in a similar way and a similar idea to how Ziggs kind of plays, where you want to try and break open the map, have a lot of poke damage, have good trading and good team fighting as well. Corki kind of presents that option. He does need some time to scale up before he gets strong though, so we'll have to see how they kind of play around him before they get to that point. But until then, you still have quite a decent amount, because when you're running the Renekton against either the Mundo or the Olaf is still a pretty decent laner. But when you have the Renekton going into these lanes, it's quite difficult to solo kill them. You should be able to more or less control the lane. So Corki, Varus should have some space to scale up. I think it ultimately depends on how they play out this early game that's going to affect whether or not the Corki is going to end up being a good pick.
That's right, we do need to keep our eyes on that. Another thing that we do need to keep our eyes on is how effective this Olaf pick is going to be, because he's got that hard counter Jarvan, as you mentioned, who can really just time out that Ragnarok with the ultimate, and that means that Olaf, while otherwise he'll really be able to dive the back lines of the enemy team, he's really unable to do very much right now, because the second that he pops Ragnarok, sure, he's immune to crowd control, but he's not immune to being locked in a giant circled arena where he can basically do nothing if no one is trapped inside with him. So of course, that means that his effectiveness in those late game team fights is going to go down, so I feel like he needs to make an earlier impact in order to be relevant in the game. And we need to keep our eyes on that, see if he's gonna be able to do that or if he's just gonna fall short.
It's definitely difficult to play as the Olaf in this specific position. Of course, there are some benefits, because it means that a lot of the Nami and Tristana's kit can't really stop you. You get a lot of momentum with that. But you take a look at the win conditions, of course, it's much easier for the blue team to scale up, right? Kerry Fan Club have a composition that scales pretty well. You have the Mundo, you have the Tristana, these are options that scale well. And then even with the Java, you don't really fall off, because you still have those options. You get the Gargoyle Stone play, you become incredibly tanky. It's difficult to take you down. Whereas on the side of NUSNEXTBUS, they have this big, strong mid-game power spike. Once you get the Corki online, once the Varus picks up his first 2 items, And because Varus builds are a little bit unconventional in Wild Rift, it's very different from what you would see in League PC, right? So Wild Rift Varus kind of builds towards has an on-hit keystone, but he's kind of building towards lethality, but he's also kind of, it's a pretty weird build for Varus players if they're not accustomed to it, but it takes some time to get to the strong point, and when it does, it actually is a very powerful marksman pick. So for them now, they kind of have to wait until this mid-game power spike. Once they get that, they should be able to take these big fights around the Rift Herald, around the Dragon, force them towards the Baron because they have decent pick potential with the Corrupting Chains. Once you've established all of that, mid-game should head over to NUSNextBUS. That's kind of what they're looking to do.
That's right. NUSNextBUS really do have a lot of crowd control as well on their side. They've got the Chains of Corruption as you mentioned, but they also have the Glacial Fissure to kind of help to peel for their Varus and their Corki if they should get dives. Of course, they do have that double 80 carry, which means that they're bringing a lot of extra damage to the table as well, but they do have the Renekton for that guaranteed crowd control as well, to be kind of that other beefy diver along with the Olaf to really kind of get onto that Tristana, who of course does have a lot of peel for himself as well with the Nami, and I believe the Lux as well in the mid lane for their side.
Okay, so I guess when you take a look at the Lux Nami matchup, and you're trying to make a guess, like, okay, so which kind of does better, which provides more for the team, I would say that Nami is generally a more favorite pick compared to the Lux. I have to wonder why Janna wasn't considered for either of these teams though, because Janna has been a pretty consistent support. That has a lot of impact. When you use the Howling Gale, you pair that with the Zephyr, these options make it for a very powerful combo that can A, provide you for disengage, B, give you a lot more damage than you expect, right? Janna has a surprising amount of damage, comparable to Nami, definitely, and a lot of utility as well. So a lot of Janna has been favored by these comps. So now we have to look at, okay, what does Lux kind of provide? It's a similar kind of idea, right? So your first spell, your Q is going to be some kind of bind, some kind of crowd control, between the Howling Gale and the bind. It's similar ideas, and then you have your shielding with your W for the Lux, it matches the shielding from the Janna, so you have some kind of shielding as well. Where the difference is that Lux has this additional damage spell, where, well, these are the two additional damage spells which can A, give you information, because now you get vision towards where you're using your E and your ultimate. So being able to spot out towards, the Baron plays, the Dragon plays, this gives them a lot more intel, and I think this is the difference between something like the Janna. So intel versus utility, I think that NUSNextBUS have valued the intel much more than the utility that they could have had if they matched the Nami with a Janna.
That's right, we will be headed on to the Wild Rift soon for Game 1, but I just want to get your thoughts, Greta. Just who do you think is going to be able to take this game? Which team is going to be able to take it, and why?
Wow, this is a bit of a tough one. I think that with how we've seen the drafts play out, I'm quite liking the comp for NUS. They have a very strong disengage, decent frontline, double ADC. We've seen how that works in the SSC, and it's been quite an effective composition. I think in the grand finals between EVOS as well as one team, all the way through the 5 games, they ended up having to ban out or steal away the dual ADC comp because of how strong it was. So I'm gonna give a slight edge to NUS to win this first game.
Alright, that's where your money is going to be. We'll be keeping our eyes on that double 80 carry composition, because it does bring out a lot of damage compared to, I believe, the Lux that is in the opposing side's mid lane. I am not 100% sure of that one because the draft was a little messy, unfortunately, but we will be getting confirmation of that when we head into game, like right now. And we are here on the Wild Rift, and yes, it is going to be a Lux in the mid lane on the side of the Kerry Fan Club, and on the side of NUSNextBUS, they have the Corki to oppose that.
Okay, so a bit of a standard setup from both sides, just getting some vision. We've had some discussion about this before. Minions spawning pretty early on means that you kind of have to commit to a lane. We've also seen some adaptation where the junglers come in to crash the mid wave early on, so just give some space over to your laners. Interesting choice to bring the Varus into the mid lane instead of the Corki. I'm not sure how much of a fan I am of this, because Corki generally wants to have that solo gold EXP, be able to reach his power spike a little bit earlier, whereas Varus could work with low value, low economy. You know, it doesn't really hurt him that much. But of course, Corki does have a better laning phase against Tristana, being able to match this matchup a little bit better, synergizes a bit better with the Braum, but I would say neither really has a significant boost with Braum as a support.
Yeah, for now, the double range comp on the side of Kerry Fan Club are definitely going to be pushing in that bottom lane, so we need to look at the pathing of the junglers. Where are they going to make their first impact in the game? Both the Jarvan and the Mundo did start in the bottom side of the map. They're going to be moving up towards this top side, which has been tussling for the past 2 minutes right now. It's Olaf going up against the Renekton. Both of them are below half health, and these junglers right now, they are going to meet soon enough. Jarvan is going to actually start up that Scuttle Crab while Mundo is still on the blue buff. Might just be able to get this one away before the Mundo even has time to respond. Yeah.
As you can see, that information that they have with that water really does set very well for the NUS team. You know, being able to figure out exactly where they are gives them so much more information. So now they get to pick up the double Scuttle Crab. They get some more information towards where the Mundo is going to come in from. He has to rush straight through mid because he definitely wants to be able to contest this, but it's a little bit too late at this point. So Mundo loses out a significant amount of gold. This also gives them a little bit more control. The first dragon is going to be the Ocean. You know, it's not the most impactful Drake. We've seen a lot of teams prioritize first chart as opposed to Dragon. So when the teams rotate towards Dragon, you go towards the top lane, the Baron lane, try get the solo kill there, force that out.
Goodness.
Bit of a flash from the Olaf. Tries to take down Renekton, but the Ignite will not quite be able to find it.
Yeah, Renekton there just living with a sliver of health, taking that Ignite as well and choosing not to use it on the Olaf. He's gonna lose a sizable wave right there, so NUSNEXTBUS are able to take the advantages in the jungle, but in the top lane, it's gonna be the Kerry Fan Club who come out on top.
It's a bit of a mistake to recall there. Renekton hit level 5, had Dominus, got some extra HP from the level up, has the Ignite as well, very close getting
It's
killed.
gonna gank in the mid lane right there. Jarvan making use of that Cataclysm and the Chains of Corruption as well. Nearly taking out that Lux. The arrow does not find its mark, but it's gonna be Jarvan on the side of NUSNEXTBUS to make the first gank.
Still pretty close. Neither side has been able to find the first blood. Was just about 3 minutes into the game. Still taking it slow, relatively slow. Neither team going for something like a dive for a big gank. You know, doesn't really quite have that setup just yet. Yeah, but I felt like Renekton kind of made the wrong decision to recall there. The wave was crashing in. You have more or less information towards where the Mundo is. You just saw in mid lane. Unlikely he's going for the dive. You have the Dominus, some extra HP from leveling up. I feel like you lose a lot of gold and EXP from making that recall. You can kind of see his path a bar behind right now. They do manage to trade back a little bit topside though.
Yeah, the Ragnarok is going to be used. Mundo making an attempt to walk up to the top side before the dragon spawns, but is not able to find a gank because the Olaf just has so much damage ready to scare the Renekton away before Mundo even arrives. The dragon has spawned, and the question really is whether the teams are going to prioritize this. For the side of NUSNEXTBUS, you can see that they're sending basically everyone down, even the Renekton. And on the side of Kerry Fan Club, we gotta see if they're gonna match this or if they're gonna try to trade for the first tower instead.
Really good call to just go over to the dragon and pick this one up quickly. You don't want to waste too much time, especially when it's just going to be an Ocean Drake. It helps that the Scuttle Crab is here too, so the junglers kind of wants the path towards this angle anyway. So gives them a little bit of space to work with. Now the Renekton is going to recall, probably trying to go back. Unless they do a lane swap, I don't quite fancy this. You know, it doesn't really benefit them all too much to go for a lane swap in this position because Renekton is already starting to feel a little bit weaker in this context, a little bit behind. He doesn't want to be in the losing lane, doesn't want to be in the weaker lane.
Oh, another gank in the mid lane. That's going to be the Cataclysm and the Chains of Corruption as well. First blood going over to the Jarvan.
Picking up first blood, but the Olaf's here too.
Yep, he's popped the Ragnarok as well. The other two is not going to land, but he's going to be able to chunk Happy Feet down to about 300 health, finding himself in kind of an awkward spot now that the Ragnarok has run out and he was unable to find any kills. It's going to be Olaf going down. Renekton has arrived as well, stuns up that Mundo tidal wave for no reason really, and that's going to be NUSNEXTBUS taking even more kills down in the mid lane.
And during the meantime, just not able to keep farming up, be able to nearly pick up that turret there. Renekton now coming back into the lane. We talked about how we don't want to see him in the weak lane. Just gonna get chunked out by the Tristana, and you can see forced back on the turret. He can't really do very much to stop them from just free hitting the turrets. Somewhat could be said of the same about the Baron lane, but like you can see right now, it doesn't really make a big difference. First turret's already gone. You don't want to make the lane swap against Tristana. I think that was a mistake from NUS. But, you know, still being able to get those few kills in the mid lane has paid off more than that first turret has.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And yes, NUSNEXTBUS really making kind of that awkward lane swap there. They're gonna make an invade as well. The Lux is gonna find herself in the middle of everyone. That's Tristana actually, who's just able to get out, but Mundo not so lucky. Lux coming around the binding is not going to find anything. The Ragnarok popped as well. Olaf able to find one. The final spark coming out as well. A lot of damage, but not enough to steal any kills right now. Michael Scott is going to be running away from that tidal wave, going to survive that one. But NUSNEXTBUS making another proactive move into Kerry Fan Club's jungle and profiting off it.
Yeah, Michael is, you know, I'm a big fan of The Office. You know, so seeing the name is definitely a fun one. But going back towards the topic at hand, you know, the lanes right now, Renekton has managed to break open the dragon lane out of tier turret. You know, gives him a little bit more space to work with. But now this being a very long lane is quite dangerous for Renekton to be beside. You know, you generally want to bring your opposing laner, so you want to bring the Corki as well as the Braum back down to the dragon lane. Now it's a long lane, it's very dangerous for Renekton to be in, and send the Renekton back up towards the Baron lane to try to make something happen there. But it's definitely been quite good for NUS because they forced Kerry Fan Club to respond to them. They've been the ones in the driver's seat controlling the match up until this point, whereas Kerry Fan Club have been largely reacting and playing towards NUS's strengths.
Yeah, NUS has placed a lot of emphasis on this mid lane as well. Jarvan has made both ganks in the mid lane to try to get this Varus ahead, so they really know that the Varus wants to get to that mid-game power spike that you were talking about earlier. And a bit of action here in the bot lane. The Dominus was actually popped, but as I was saying, Varus finding himself those extra kills is definitely going to get to that mid-game faster. It's definitely going to be able to put out more of that damage quickly. Yeah, of course, again, Jarvan is in that mid lane once again.
Yeah, hitting those power spikes a little earlier, being able to find some tempo a little earlier, definitely what you want with the Varus. Of course, you kind of want that with the Corki as well, right? So if one is ahead before the other, you know, you're kind of in an awkward spot because you're still waiting on the other carry to find their footing to get to that power spike. So Varus now with 2 items, whereas look at Corki, he's still sitting on 1.5, hasn't completed the Triforce yet. Once they do though, right around this 10-minute mark is when NUS is going to be about the strongest. When they hit that 15-minute mark, they are going to peak, then they're going to start declining there on out. Whereas for Kerry Fan Club, you know, they should be able to start scaling up a little bit better. I'm not big on the Olaf though.
Ooh, no face checking right there. Gonna fall instantly, and the Corki just going straight in with that package. Nami gonna be the second victim. That Olaf right there. Ragnarok in the middle of 4 people, but not tanky enough to survive very long. Corki is gonna live through this one, and NUSNEXTBUS are gonna get themselves a second dragon.
Unable to survive through that, they popped and ripped out to the dragon pit. You know, it's always funny to see. We'll have to see what Shelly is going to be able to get done here. Should be able to get quite a bit, actually. Break open the mid lane. If they can find 2 turrets here, it's great value for them. But it actually walks down towards the bot side, which is a bit of a misstep. Still, breaking open the mid turret here should be okay for them. They don't have to grab it right now. They can always reset, come back for it later because they're sitting on about a 6,000 gold lead at this point. You know, it's definitely enough. It's converted into a full item for probably 1 or 2 players over the opponent. And with that much of a gold lead, they should be able to actually find some pretty good positions. Okay, that's kind of what the comp is looking for, right? That big wave clear as they kind of lock down the window once again. You know, he's just going to go down as they do pick up a mid lane.
Yeah, Tristana is trying to fire back, but right now not enough damage. Olaf coming in from the flank, is able to pick up 1 and 2, but goes down because he's trapped in Cataclysm. Let's see what these two AD carries can do. Is the Tristana gonna be able to put out enough damage? Yes, she is gonna be able to find a double kill. And just when you think that NUSNEXTBUS are the ones in the driver's seat, Kerry Fan Club turn around and say, no, we're gonna take control of this game now.
Now you have to face against Tristana, who's gonna open up the map. Look at his damage. Clears out turrets like nothing. Already grabs 1. They respond very well there. That just closed the gold difference down by 4,000. Now it's only a 2,000 gold lead for NUSNEXTBUS. We just talked about how this advantage for NUS was so significant because this is where they're strongest, the power spike that they're at. Without this gold lead, without this difference, you know, it makes things a lot closer and a lot more kind of open-ended. You don't really know what to expect in a lot of these situations. And again, I think a big part of this as well has been how they've been left reacting to their weakling. At least now they've been able to climb back up significantly. I don't think this is quite the right itemization from the Jarvan. I think Gargoyle's Stone play should have been prioritized before the Warden's Mail. You know, it provides so much additional stats, especially when you are planning to frontline for your team. When you jump in with the Cataclysm, you lock in multiple players, you want to pop their Gargoyles, you can reduce so much damage. So I'm hoping that he goes for this build quickly coming up.
Yeah, that's right. Another thing that I wanted to point out is that, as you mentioned earlier, both having to wait for both AD carries to get their power spikes. During that previous fight, that Corki is still sitting on 1.5 items. So NUSNEXTBUS perhaps prematurely pulling the trigger there and overestimating the damage that they had, when in reality the Corki really was not doing too much. That kind of overconfidence really cost them as well. They are still the ones making the moves on the map, though, trying to set up a little bit of a death brush right now. I don't think anyone's going to walk into this one, but for now they're going to continue barreling this wave down the mid lane.
Like, they should have gone in, they got the kill on the Mundo, they got the turret, that should be end of story. You move on, reset, come back in, even stronger, you know. But they kind of misread the situation because in their eyes, they saw multiple targets in front of them, they had some tempo because they were ahead, you know. It felt like they had some of their ultimates, so they were feeling confident about the situation. What they didn't manage to read was the Olaf flanking from the side, past the Raptors, and then collapsing in on them. And even when you use the Cataclysm, all it does is yes, it locks down the Olaf, but it also locks down the Jarvan in with him. So wasn't quite effective enough to be able to take down the Olaf quickly, so the damage still came through. They were able to find some decent trade back, and by then it was a little bit too late for NUS to go for the reset. They had to commit to the fight. Unfortunately, they got ace there. That gave Tristana some time to break open the mid turret, but you know, overall, we still see the ideas out from NUS. I think in the big picture as a whole, they're doing quite well.
Yeah, teleport coming in from the Olaf, already trapped up in that Cataclysm. The Chains of Corruption are not going to land, and the teamfight has begun. Look at that Corki, though, is in kind of an awkward spot. Mundo is going to be the first one to fall. What can the Olaf do? Wrecking havoc in the front line, but not enough, unfortunately. It does go down. The Renekton is still pretty tanky and still in the front now. All that's left for the Kerry Fan Club is their backline. Maybe Alpha can make a cheeky steal. Does not have the ultimate, but does have the Lucent Singularity. It's not able to pop it, and NUSNEXTBUS are able to secure themselves the teamfight win and the Dragon.
Good call from Kerry Fan Club to recognize this Dragon is one that you should fight for. They do manage to get decent damage, and they try to come in with an interesting angle, bringing the Olaf in to teleport. Unfortunately, the mistake, I think, leading up to this situation was that the waves were not in the right spot. There was not enough pressure to force NUS to slow play the Dragon. What I mean by this, you look towards the active item slot on both sides. Kerry Fan Club's the only one with teleport. You have the Olaf. He should have continued clearing out the Baron wave. Pick up this turret. Slow play it. Because you have the Nami, because you have the Lux. If you kite them, you force NUSNEXTBUS to not be able to start the Dragon. And even if you lose it, sure, it hurts to lose an Infernal, but you can carry on. You can move on without that big of a loss.
Ragnarok onto the Varus, they're able to take him out. Michael Scott falls. It's about to be a down kill for the Olaf before it goes down. And that's what you want to be seeing from this Viking. The Renekton nowhere to be found. Tristana is on a killing spree. This Guardian Angel is not going to mean all that much for the Jarvan. Lux is going to find one kill for herself, and Kerry Fan Club, they walk into the jungle of NUSNEXTBUS and they find themselves a bunch of kills and maybe even the Baron.
Very good response for Kerry Fan Club to turn that situation around. Now moving on to the Baron. Renekton cannot stop this. They have 4 on that side. 10 seconds left of the death timers for a couple of these players. They don't have enough time to respond to the Baron. This gives Kerry Fan Club a great chance to snowball back into the game. Tristana with Baron is an absolute menace. It's going to be very difficult to deal with Tristana clearing out the waves, bringing them in, escorting them onto your turret, and then just popping them in 3 or 4 auto attacks, paired together with the bomb, of course. So they have to be very concerned about this. I don't think NUSNEXTBUS necessarily have enough wave clear to deal with the waves without expanding a lot of the damage they could have been using to poke down Kerry Fan Club, right? Because that's kind of the situation that we've been in. You know, Varus should be looking to be able to get some decent poke damage along with the Corki. Problem being now they have to rely on the arrow as well as the phosphorus bomb, as well as the missiles to deal with just the wave in general. A little bit difficult for NUSNEXTBUS to deal with this.
Absolutely, and now I worry for NUSNEXTBUS as well, because we mentioned how they peak at like 15 minutes and then they start to decline after that. And if you look at that timer, Grandin, it's 16 minutes right now, so NUSNEXTBUS are going to start to fall off in terms of effectiveness, and really the power of the Tristana can start to show itself. There's going to be an engage onto the Mundo there, a lot being thrown onto that one boy, and he's still alive. That's Chains of Corruption down, finally falls to the piercing arrow, but Michael Scott in the front lines nearly dropping there, dying to that red buff. Tristana is on a rampage. That's a very odd fight there from NUSNEXTBUS.
Have to commit the Cataclysm. If you want to lock down the window, you have to use the Cataclysm, because the Corrupting Chain stacked the Glacial Fissure was nowhere near enough. Still managed to get out that fight, so next opportunity they have, I would like to see them stack the Cataclysm early on, because you have a good lockdown. You know what this window's supposed to do in the face of you.
Top lane right there, the 1v3 flashing onto Happy Feet, but Happy Feet has that stopwatch for himself. Olaf is going to take that consolation prize off the Braum, but is going to fall to the Jarvan.
Ultimately goes down, but it's a jungle for support trade. Not feeling like this is the most valuable one they could have gone for. Either way, you know, wanted to try and get the Varus pick. I'm not sure how much value there is in taking down the Varus in that angle anyway, because you see the Elder Mountain Drake spawning up pretty soon. You want the jungler alive at that point. Don't necessarily want to dive in there.
Well, lucky for them, they do have the jungler, because Olaf is their top laner. They're gonna still be able to go for this 4v4, but Tristana in the front there, getting locked up by the Chains of Corruption, able to flash and peel back. The Renekton is in the front lines right now. Jarvan jumping in, that's gonna be Nami falling as well. Tristana still trying to kite back. Michael Scott has gone forward with that Valkyrie and is able to take that Tristana out. And NUSNEXTBUS, they find themselves a teamfight win.
And this is why your jungler or your Baron laner has to be alive when there's going to be an Elder Drake. You have to be able to go for these fights, to be able to trade back. Olaf, you know, with the Undertow can still get some decent damage on these squishies, which is, guess what, primarily what NUSNEXTBUS is comprised of. And so they misread the situation, wanted to go for the trade there, take down the Varus in exchange for the Baron laner. But you can see how that risky play could end up blowing up in their faces. They should have slow played towards the dragon instead, because they were starting to scale up to that point of power. Kerry Fan Club, they have their eyes on this next Baron, though they picked up the last one. They were able to get good control, good vision around the Baron, and that set them up so they were able to pick up a good team fight. Let's see if they can repeat this going into this next one.
Yeah, now they have a problem for themselves though, because NUSNEXTBUS have all 4 dragons, and just when we said that NUSNEXTBUS peaked at 15 and they're gonna start to decline, these dragons allow them to deal more damage and keep them relevant for a longer period in the game. And the Baron being up right now, it kind of is pretty tough for Kerry Fan Club to win a straight on 5v5. I feel like they might need to pick someone off first, pick off one of the AD carries or perhaps one of the tanks with those Lux bindings or with the Nami bubbles, and then maybe that's when they could try to make a attempt at taking the Baron. But now NUSNEXTBUS have control over the river. They're going to start sweeping out that vision. They're going to be the first ones to the Baron. Teleport from the Olaf coming out as well. We saw this happen last time. There is a sizable wave in the bot lane. Tidal wave was also blocked away by that Braum, but the damage coming out from Happy Feet right now, poking out the Kerry Fan Club. They decide that they're just going to go and push mid instead.
Again, I don't like the teleport. I'm not sure why you have to teleport so early. You have a wave crashing down towards the dragon lane. You have a wave crashing towards the baron lane. Respond to that first. So bring that in right now. This is a great chance to teleport.
Of corruption and a 3-man cataclysm right there. The teleport is unavailable for the Olaf. That's gonna cost Kerry Fan Club 3 members right there. It's gonna be a triple kill for the Varus. Olaf is coming around from the back, but it is too little too late because the members of NUSNEXTBUS are on the Nexus and they're gonna take game 1 of the series.
Great pickup for NUSNEXTBUS to find this first win. It's so important to get this tempo, and especially on red side. Red side has had some issues before. It's been difficult to execute well. Been difficult to convert that into a win. You can see how the goal graph kind of went. Situation was definitely leading towards NTU for quite a bit of the game there, right? Kerry Fan Club were developing pretty good leads, but of course, again, it goes back to some ideas towards why I feel like Mundo is not necessarily the best jungler going into this. He doesn't have good crowd control. He has a lot of HP. He can soak up a lot of damage, especially because you saw the Gargoyle Stone play come through for the Mundo. Can go in and take a lot of damage. It's difficult to kill him outright. But with the way that the opponents are scaling, once they start getting this percentage damage, it becomes very questionable without crowd control what Mundo is effectively going to be able to do, and so you rely very heavily on the Olaf to get something done for you. Overall, I felt like it was a missed opportunity, a bit of a miss between the composition that kind of led to Kerry Fan Club dropping this first game, and why NUS was able to win a pretty convincing first game.
Yeah, it was very convincing, of course, but I really do want to questions Mundo pick a little further, because when you look at the jungle pool in Wild Rift, there are a lot of other premier junglers that they could have gone for. The Lee Sin was open, the Gragas was open, the Vi was open, just to name a few, but they opted to send their Mundo to the jungle instead. In fact, I feel like it would have been better if they sent their Olaf there and perhaps picked a different solo laner for the Baron, but I think for the side of Kerry Fan Club, really, for the next game, they need to kind of get that one sorted out, because the Mundo, like you said, it's just a tank. It doesn't provide any hard crowd control or anything. I want to see a better jungle pick from the side of the Kerry Fan Club.
We could definitely stand to see something different, like you mentioned, the Vi, the Lee Sin. So I have to wonder if this is a compositional issue where the team that is not confident playing for aggressive junglers, in which case you could still go for something a little bit more passive. If you go for the Vi, you can provide some additional support for your team. You can use the Vault Breaker, the battery, the solid battery to assist your carries in the backline when somebody jumps on you. Those are potential options. Whereas champions like Lee Sin is very reliant on being able to go in aggressively and taking down your opponent, so it could be that they aren't comfortable with that. But even if that were the case, Gragas is still an option. Gragas was not removed that last game, and we've seen how important Gragas has been for a lot of teams in the past with the regional competition going by. Not opting for that, instead going for the Mundo is a little bit of an adaptation. I feel like they had some kind of strategy plan going into the competition, but just based on this first game, the feel of it overall and how the team can perform with it, I don't think it's necessarily what they want to work with. You could make the argument that they have practiced hard on it and they figured out how to make this strategy work, but I'm not quite a big fan. But another thing that I wasn't quite a big fan of was how to play out an Olaf lane, right? You want to play an Olaf, that's fine. You can make Olaf work in Wild Rift for sure. But the issue is you need some kind of support, some kind of enchanters to be able to empower the Olaf. I felt like the Lux was not necessarily the right option there, because if you wanted to go for something with some crowd control, with some damage, Seraphine was not an option because Seraphine was banned out. Yeah. But you could still look for some control mages. You could look for something like the Orianna. You could, even something like the Diana. As strange as it may seem, Diana being an assassin, but with the Moonfall, it's actually really big crowd control, and that sets up very well for the Olaf. Once you jump in, when they have something to focus on that is not the Olaf, they have to worry about all these potential threats. Olaf kind of slips to the back of their mind, and then you come in and show them why you cannot afford to ignore the Olaf. He's going to run you down and bring you to town. You know, it's quite a strong position to play when you run a dual and secondary threat. Mundo is not a secondary threat, so you have to bring in something else instead.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like perhaps the Enchanter support in the bot lane also. I also don't really like this Nami pick either from the side of Kerry Fan Club. I feel like they could have done better with perhaps a Janna or a Lulu, especially considering that the Braum was picked first. They picked the Nami into the Braum, and as we all know, Braum's Unbreakable Shield can easily destroy that tidal wave and any crowd control that the Nami may provide. So perhaps something like a Lulu, or where she can just straight up buff one of her carries, or the Olaf, for example, to just run in there. Like, what's scarier than a Ragnaroking Olaf? A Ragnaroking Olaf who is absolutely, like, literally huge running at your face, right? Or perhaps a Janna that could help a little more with the peel. But Nami is kind of, I find, that awkward spot in between the two, and I don't really like that. So I also would prefer to see either the Janna or the Lulu for that kind of composition from the side of Kerry Fan Club.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I felt like Janna could have been a much better option as opposed to the Nami. Nami does have some ideas there with the crowd control, with some sustain, and then having some disengage. That's something that the Lulu does not provide, which is why I'm guessing they didn't want to go for Lulu. But Janna does offer a lot of these options, so with all of those things into consideration, felt like Janna could have been a better option. Either way, though, they did have some pretty good control in lane. I have to say that the laning phase was played out a little bit better by Kerry Fan Club. I think that they had pretty good idea of how to play it out. They put them into the weak lane. You know, they got the first turret. Tristana and Nami were pretty much manhandling the Renekton there. And so the Renekton was behind a decent amount of gold compared to the Olaf. That meant that he couldn't go for these direct 1v1 exchanges. But of course, we go back to the same situation, right? Olaf might be ahead, but Olaf does not have any crown control. Whereas if you had something like the Darius, if you have the upper hand, you could lock down the Olaf, the Renekton, pull him back. The Mundo can actually join into the fight. You know, we saw some times where Mundo was looking to try and gank, come into lane. He walked in through lane directly, but then by that time, the Slice and Dice was on the second charge. Renekton just dashes out. You cannot follow up fast enough with the Undertow. These are some of the systemic problems that exist within the composition that Kerry have drafted with. I'm hoping to see them come in with something a little bit more dynamic, a bit more fluid, more cohesive for this team. Because with the way they played out the early game, I think they had some good ideas as to how to play it out.
Yeah, absolutely. It is match point right now for the Kerry Fan Club, so they really need to bring all of their cards to the table. If they're trying to hide anything in the previous game, they no longer have that option. They must play for their lives right now, because if they don't win this one, then the NUSNEXTBUS squad are going to take them 2-0, and they're going to claim the first prize. They're going to get that $650 and those 5 Secretlab League of Legends chairs. But you know, when we talk about all these different things that Kerry Fan Club can change, we really hope that we can see some of that. Of course, we need to commend their play as well, and they did do a very good job, able to win that team fight. They were able to attack their opponents when their opponents were weak, and because of how NUSNEXTBUS overstepped right there, they had that point in time where they could take the Baron, and unfortunately just overestimated themselves a little bit with that Baron buff and weren't really able to play the map properly. Again, could be due to some of the systematic issues with their draft, but definitely Kerry Fan Club with some better champions in their pockets could take a game off NUSNEXTBUS.
Yeah, some better picks could be the difference that we see. Of course, going into this one, you know, we talked so much about the draft, so much about the comp, the way the game kind of panned out. You look back towards the Campus League as a whole, you know, you're not expecting like pro level play. I have to say, I'm pretty impressed by what they've kind of displayed so far, right? It looks pretty fleshed out. They have ideas. Of course, you know, without the same infrastructure, without the same support, you don't expect them to be, you know, pioneering new ideas. But I felt like they've had good, consistent kind of thoughts and little bubbles that they've been able to execute quite decently. I think that's pretty good adaptation and good growth going into the Campus League, right? It's not always that you get to have opportunities on a tertiary level to be able to compete together with your friends. So with that lack of experience, it's pretty difficult to get better in a team setting, because playing solo queue is ultimately very different from playing as a 5-man stack against another 5-man stack that has been strong. I think another might be a bit of a issue for these guys is definitely finding scrim partners, right? That's something that we've kind of discussed at length in previous iterations of Wild Rift professional titles. It's difficult to find competitive scrim partners within the same region. You know, we've seen like the top tier teams scrimming only international teams. I feel like with what we've seen so far, the NUS and NTU team have pretty firmly set within this kind of meta that exists within Wild Rift internationally, not just what exists in Singapore. I think that's something really cool to see, you know, being able to have something not just directly linked back to the way that we play here locally, but something that can be adapted to and played well abroad as well.
Yeah, most definitely bringing in a very decent and a really pretty good level of play right here for a campus league. Just doing a good job both sides, and definitely having fun with their friends as well. And of course, if anyone on those teams are feeling you know, a little dehydrated, I mean, Singapore weather recently has been absolutely ridiculous. You know, I've been sweating like nearly 24/7, so I really would love 100 plus right now, and of course because 100 plus helps you replenish lost fluids, energy, and electrolytes to combat the effects of dehydration, which is also possible even in an air-conditioned environment, which makes 100 plus beneficial for your everyday hydration even when you're playing Wild Rift at home. And I know, Grandin, over in your background there, you do have yourself 2 bottles of 100 plus, so do go ahead and up your hydration game. Take a sip of those, man.
Oh, definitely. You know, I'm definitely enjoying myself right now as we get ready for our second game. I'm getting hyped up, get my energy levels up, get excited, because this is match point. You know, we've hit the stride pretty quickly, and you know, it's a bit of a grudge match. We saw how things panned out before. It was a 2-1. Things were looking pretty close, and so same position, right? First game was dropped by one team, and so they're looking to get the 1-1 and play out the last third. It's very important how this next game is going to be, so quite looking forward to how this one pans out. I think looking back towards it, even though the picks and bans were a little bit messy, you know, we still had some pretty interesting ideas. The double AD carry composition from NUS is something that has been adopted very well by the Taiwanese region. They've been able to make that into a very effective and just dominating composition. When you saw the Thai team, the Evos play against them, they had to respond to that, remove the Corki, ban it out. That's a ban that you only have 2 bans, right? You have to expand one of them to get rid of the Corki, and then you'd have to take away the Ezreal as well. You know, this is how powerful this composition was, that they had to respond to it directly. That game went the full series. This one very well could as well. You know, we've seen NTU, Kerry Fan Club very close as well. They are not giving this game up easily. They were looking pretty close for a second. Once they got the Baron, they had some decent tempo, but ultimately I think they weren't quite able to find it because of the way that they were managing the lanes. The wave management was a little bit off, so they had some issues converting there.
Yeah, that's right. Of course, as you mentioned again, it is match point right now, and both these teams are playing for some amazing prizes. Of course, in first place you get yourself $650 and 5 Secretlab League of Legends gaming chairs. And speaking of Secretlab, of course, Secretlab is the top choice for Singapore Wild Rift esports, and you know, you definitely want that level of comfort when you're playing on your mobile phone and trying to climb and get to that highest rank, trying to break through. You know, if you're trying everything right, might as well try and get a gaming chair as well to get to up that game, to up your game even more. You know, might as well. And of course, the perfect gaming chair would be Secretlab right now, and these 5 members from each squad would definitely want to win themselves some Secretlab chairs as well. So a lot is on the line right now.
I mean, the League of Legends edition chairs as well. It's something nice to see. Going into this, being able to get that pickup, it's a bit tricky to be able to win outright. You know, if you want to be able to play out this BO3, there's some issues that I think they have to kind of tackle first and foremost in order for them to be able to get this win, right? So for the NUS composition, I think that the double ADC comp is pretty interesting. It's pretty straightforward. But I think it's very easy to remove because you just have to expend one band to kind of negate this effect, right? Whereas you take a look towards the other composition, it's a little bit trickier for NTU because NTU kind of have to reforge a little bit of the composition, right? A lot of the picks that we're talking about, there are so many dynamic new changes that you have to kind of respond with, come in with new ones as well.
That's right, we get ourselves into the draft. For the Kerry Fan Club, they do not ban out that Corki, so it makes you wonder, are they going to try and pick up this double AD carry comp for themselves? They do opt to actually first pick up that Braum instead.
Okay, going in for the first pick, Braum again. I'm not a huge fan of this. I still feel like there are better choices here. The Gragas is an option, Jarvan's an option, Lee Sin is an option, so many other picks that you could potentially go for. Instead, it's the Braum. Okay, you still want to have the disengage. You want the Glacial Fissure, the Unbreakable. You value that way more. Again, I'm not that big of a fan of this. I want to see what the response is going to be out from NUSNEXTBUS, because when you have this options already kind of open up, it's very easy to counter this, go for something that provides more value. You could go for something that pairs well. Even, let's see, what would be best here? With the way that they've been playing the composition, they could actually offer something pretty similar to what they went for before. Get one of the AD carries out the way early. Could go for the Renekton as well again. Okay, we saw how that did against the Olaf last round. Maybe Darius could be an option, Garen could be an option. Even after nerfs, I still think it does well against the Renekton lane.
Yeah, that's right. We see the Leona pickup from the side of NUSNEXTBUS there, sticking with that melee support. When the Braum is denied from them, they're going to pull out that Leona. So really could be going for a very similar thing as you mentioned before, although they should probably have picked up one of the AD carries at the very least. And oh dear, I do not like this at all, Grandin. I am not a fan. The Mundo has been picked up once again by Kerry Fan Club.
Mundo kind of looks like this champ that they've been relying on. It looks like something they've strategized with and are looking to try and make work. Yeah, it's a little bit problematic for them if they don't have something to respond to the kind of crowd control coming out from NUSNEXTBUS. Of course, the Mundo can get a hit and skill up quickly. He is able to soak up a lot of damage, but I'm not a big fan of this because it just gives so much agency back to NUSNEXTBUS to go back to the composition that they've wanted. It lets them get the Corki again. You know, now might opt for something different instead of the Varus, but it's still quite within the expectation. Going for the Kai'Sa instead pairs that with the Corki, a lot of damage comes through.
Yeah, that's right. Kai'Sa as well, specializing in shredding down those high health tanks. And what do we have on the side of Kerry Fan Club? The Mundo, which is basically the epitome of this full health, high armor, no real crowd control kind of tank. And Kai'Sa is a huge counter to that, and Kerry Fan Club actually sticking with basically the same composition, excluding the Nami. They're gonna trade that one for the Braum, and on the side of NUSNEXTBUS, they settle for the Jarvan again. They see the Olaf and they're like, alright, we're gonna take this Jarvan again, and basically if it ain't broke, you don't really need to fix it at all. And on the side of NUSNEXTBUS and on the side of Kerry Fan Club, this is really more or less like a replay of Game 1.
For both sides, it's very similar, right? There were some adaptations from Kerry Fan Club, but it was just one switch out. I think the same can be said about NUSNEXTBUS. It's really just the difference between the Leona change versus as well as the Kai'Sa change. But for the most part, it's very similar composition for both sides. And seeing the way it panned out, I'm not a big fan of this. You're allowing NUSNEXTBUS to go back to something that they are comfortable with. You should force them in a position where they have to face some discomfort. You know, it's very easy to do so because once you remove the Corki, there are not that many great options to kind of replace it. Sure, you could go for something like the Ezreal, but then you have ways to respond to that as well. So overall, I felt like the draft-wise, still a little bit... it doesn't quite have that fully flashed out experience. You know, the coaches, the players don't necessarily have that full experience to play out the picks and bans that way. Instead, they're going back to something that they're comfortable with, which is fine too. If it's something that you've practiced with, it's something that you worked with, and you're looking to commit to it, by all means. That being said, though, we could very well likely see the game go back to the same way because of that fact, because we've already had it. We've already seen one match before where it was a very similar composition. This change could just link it back to the same position.
Yeah, and that's really where we need to look now, because we talked about how they could change up their draft to get them ahead in the game, and well, since they've chosen not to, then we need to look at how they play out the draft that they have in order to be able to win. So really, what do they need to do right now to get this Mundo to be effective?
Before that,
definitely.
Before that, we spawn into the Rift. It's the second game in this best of 3. Match point up for NUS right now. They just have to get one more to win first place, the grand finals of the Campus League, the first one in our entire season. You asked me what I think that the Mundo has to do to get ahead. Honestly, there's so many steps that Mundo has to go through. It's kind of it's a walkthrough, right? I have to give you a full walkthrough to get Mundo up to speed, because he doesn't have a lot to work with. He can't really gank many of these lanes. You know, it's not so straightforward. The longest lane, the lane that is going to see the most clashing, is going to be the Baron lane, but you can't rely on the Olaf for that. You know, you don't really have that option. You go to the mid side, Kai'Sa is going to be difficult to lock down. You go to the bot side, Valkyrie, Solar Flare, so many ways to disengage off of you.
Ooh.
Pretty problematic overall.
Yikes, that looks pretty problematic in general right now. Happy Feet taking Alpha down, already forcing him to use that honey fruit, and the game has barely begun. This Kai'Sa lane just able to shove this Lux in, and that's also another thing that hasn't really been very effective. This Lux pick has not really done a lot, unfortunately, for the side of Kerry Fan Club. And when it's this kind of uphill battle, you know, when you're at match point and you need to do everything to win, having these kinds of disadvantages really does not help you. You can see that Renekton has actually walked down and spots out this Mundo again. This is where things started to go downhill, when the Jarvan got the first Scuttle Crab. So let's see if Mundo can do anything to change that. Olaf is walking up as well, but Happy Feet is here to help out. Alpha is about half health right there and is unable to do anything. Jarvan gets that Scuttle Crab, and that means the NUSNEXTBUS are satisfied. They're going to be walking away happy.
NUSNEXTBUS, they overexpended their spells going into the Scuttle Crab. You saw the stun coming out, you saw the Flag Drag already being used. They could have very well turned on Kerry Fan Club there to get the first blood, had they held on to their spells early, you know, especially because they were late to go and get the vision on the Mundo. They weren't able to stop it in time. Mundo made a bit of an adaptation, skipping one camp so that he could go for his double buffs early. They do manage to trade back with the Bomb Scuttle Crab this time though, so doesn't give that one away for free. A lot closer of a game compared to the first one, but you can still see the goal advantage stacking towards NUSNEXTBUS right now, just off of how much more the Jarvan has been able to clear the jungle as well as the mid lane, being able to shove against Alpha. Alpha is in a pretty bad spot against Happy Feet, and Happy Feet should be getting pretty close to picking up the 80 items that he needs to get the upgrade to Icathian Rain, and once he does that, it becomes so much stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, the mid lane is the place where really Kerry Fan Club are kind of falling short right now. Okay, they managed to get the Mundo, one Scuttle Crab, but what really can he do about it when he has no real control over the mid lane at the moment? Alpha is kind of able to push out the lane, but also not exactly, because when your Lux going up against Kai'Sa, Kai'Sa can just keep spamming those Icathian Rains right there. As you can see, Alpha is very afraid to even walk forward because they know that the Jarvan is present nearby, and that just allows Happy Feet to continue to push out and gain priority in that mid lane.
Yeah, and this priority is going to be really important because first Dragon's going to be in the Inferno. It's 30 seconds to spawning up, so you can see Kai'Sa going to make a quick reset. Coming back in, they have to acknowledge that this fight is going to be pretty monumental. The way that this fight pans out will kind of determine the pace of the game for the next couple of minutes, because unless either side just willingly gives up this Dragon, which I don't think will be the case because both should have pretty decent fighting potential with their ultimates up. So if they're going to go around for this Dragon, whichever side is going to be able to win it should get a pretty decent position as they just sit right on top of one. Happy Feet as well as Sangyo not in the best spot.
Ooh, that's gonna be a double binary, and then the engage coming out as well, chunked out. The Jarvan falls for first blood. Renekton forces to flash away as well. The rocket jump for the follow-up. Maybe this might be a bit of an over chase from the side of Kerry Fan Club. Then Mundo is forced to flash away as well. Tristana is able to find a double kill. It is able to rocket jump away. Killer Instincts is going to help the Kai'Sa find one return kill, but overall it's going to be a 2-for-1 in favor of the Kerry Fan Club. Although NUSNEXTBUS, they're going to continue walking forward on this one. A Valkyrie forward as well, and so much damage on the Mundo. They're just getting absolutely destroyed by Happy Feet. Leona flashing forward as well. They're just going to continue chasing this one. Jarvan has already respawned. Just when you thought that Kerry Fan Club found that first team fight, they overchased it, and now NUSNEXTBUS have control over the dragon.
I'm gonna go with the NUSNEXTBUS. They do find this first Inferno, and like I said, how this fight pans out is going to kind of determine the pace of the game for the next few minutes. In hindsight, looking back at it, Kerry Fan Club, you know, they don't lose that much out of this. They lose the dragon, lose a bit of gold, but the gold difference was already there before that fight. They found 2 kills, they got the first blood. How this kind of panned out, they got the catch because they had vision, and this is so important. Having vision control is how you enable your Lux. Your Lux has issues when you're just blind firing your spells, but when you have information where they are, you have so much zoning potential, so much catch potential. That's kind of how things are going to play out for Kerry Fan Club. Vision control, very important. They have to be the ones to set things up. But right now, NUSNEXTBUS have done a great adaptation, but I think he might just end up walking into Alpha. Zenarif will be able to walk back towards the Corki and move away successfully.
Yeah, it's able to find some vision in the river and deny some of the vision from the opponents as well. The Rift Herald has spawned, and you can see that everyone from both sides are moving towards it, but Kerry Fan Club are the ones who start this out. The Rift Herald dropping to about 5,000. Keep your eyes on the Jarvan. Leona is already in the middle of the fight. Jarvan jumping in with that Cataclysm as well. Leona is gonna fall as well, but the Mundo is taken out by Happy Feet. Just uses the Killer Instincts, goes straight in, maybe a bit too far forward. Rift Herald is going to go over to the side of Kerry Fan Club, and they're gonna trade 1-for-1, but again, Kerry Fan Club are the ones who are able to find the objective.
They do kill the Mundo there, so it's an okay position overall. You know, you don't exactly love giving away the Rift Herald, especially when you have a Tristan enemy team. But it's not the worst case scenario, so they should still be able to take down the Rift Herald depending on the way they pick these fights and depending on where the Rift Herald is going to be used in which lane. You know, it's a jungle trade for a support trade. Of course, you have to favor that a little bit more. Then again, we've seen how the Mundo kind of plays. He's not super go reliant, can just afford to play from a slightly weaker position.
Rift Herald is summoned in the mid lane right now with 4 members of the Kerry Fan Club there. Olaf is hanging around as well, but unfortunately there's no wave to go with this Rift Herald, and it can't even land the charge right there. Kerry Fan Club lose out on a fair amount of gold and a fair amount of damage to their mid lane tier 1.
Yeah, they don't manage to find much value with the Rift Herald, and that's kind of a bad spot because you took that fight thinking that you were going to get the Rift Herald to get something out of it. Yeah, not liking how they played that Rift Herald, but they should be able to convert something back here. Let's see if NUS can find this catch. The Zenith Blade will not be able to connect. Flash away by Blue. Good call to make a decisive flash. You don't want to get locked up there because if they go down, it's very easy to get those turrets after.
Yeah, absolutely. Just pulling the trigger quickly, making use of that summoner spell to get away from the Leona. But NUSNEXTBUS, we can see them being proactive, but they're not being as proactive as the previous game, and as a result, the game is much closer than before. You can see that the goal lead right now is basically non-existent between the Kerry Fan Club and NUSNEXTBUS, where in the previous game around this time it was already about 5,000-ish gold on the side of NUSNEXTBUS.
Which is fine for NUS because they run a composition that scales better going into the 10 to 15 minute mark. So even if they have the same amount of gold, they have more damage, they have more utility. That's when they are strong. So being even is actually a very good case scenario for NUSNextBUS. So now they get to play around this dragon well, right? They get to control the dragon, they force them back. Look at how far back Kerry Fan Club have to play. They don't even know where the Jarvan is, and Jarvan is a big source of their primary engage. Package available on this Corkido, so you have to keep a lookout for Michael Scott and how he plays these fights.
NUSNextBUS are going to sweep away that vision. They don't want the double binding to land again. Jarvan going to take control of that mid bush. You can see both teams are still posturing around this. They really are playing for the Dragons and the Rift Heralds this game. Some poke coming out as well. Leona dropping down to about 500 health. And at this point in time, Kerry Fan Club, they take control of the river. They don't really have any wards to place down, however. And after everything, they're just gonna walk back into the mid lane and clear that wave. But one thing that you notice is that Happy Feet there actually used his barrier and is actually about half health. So seeing that opportunity, and NUSNextBUS are low, but hey, the fight begins regardless. That's gonna be a final spark that lands onto the Leona. Michael Scott walking straight back into that redemption. Happy Feet is on a rampage. Double kill right now for the Renekton as well. Killer Instinct gonna fly straight onto that Tristana. Pops her with those stacks, flashes back over the wall. It's gonna be a double kill. It's gonna be a triple kill for Happy Feet. And NUSNextBUS take that fight and they take the dragon.
Right, the NUS, they find a great angle there. Java gets the lockdown, pulls them into the pit. Zhang Yo had a great angle for that Cataclysm to hold them down, and that made all the difference. Kerry Fan Club couldn't respond to that. They were a little bit too impatient. They jumped onto the dragon preemptively. That was not the call. They had some decent fight potential, but it's not enough to outright ignore NUSNextBUS and move on to the dragon. Instead, now they have to play a little bit more conservatively with the Inferno and the Mountain Drake both stacked onto NUS. They have a lot more scaling going into this next fight. Baron is going to be a very real threat for NUS, so Kerry Fan Club have to watch out for that. Need to clear out the waves. This is something that we've talked about time and time again. Wave management. How to manage the waves for your team. Kerry Fan Club has had some issues managing it to be able to find the maximum amount of value to force NUS to respond to those, to the side lanes and take them away from this dragon. Right, last game we saw the teleport out from the Olaf early on. This game not going for the teleport. I don't quite agree with this. I think, yeah, go back for the teleport. It works. You just have to be more cognizant on how to use the teleport to get the advantage that you want. So being able to clear out the sideways is exactly what I want to see. What they're doing right now, bringing Tristana and the Braum to clear out this turret to get some of the gold, to even out the score a little bit, is pretty much in line with what I'm looking forward to see.
Yeah, Renekton forced to use the Dominus as well. The turret is still about half health, but the fact that the Braum and the Tristana are down in the bot lane means that NUSNextBUS can continue to siege up this mid lane. Lux doesn't have enough wave clear right now. Does throw out the binding for some decent poke, but they're still gonna lose the first turret in the mid lane. Flash from the Leona, but Happy Feet level 12 right now. A lot of gold, I believe, is on him. 6, 0, and 1. So very threatening high side at the moment. Kerry Fan Club have to back away.
I mean, I didn't feel like the flash had to come through from the Leona, but, you know, playing it safe, they didn't have information on where the Tristana and the Braum were at that point. So from our perspective, of course, we could say that, yeah, they didn't necessarily have to flash there, but from their perspective, without the information, you kind of run that risk. But that kind of goes back to that idea, right? Right now, you're playing on the aggressor, you're looking to try and siege out the mid side. What are you supposed to do? You're supposed to set up vision, set up wards towards the dragon side, towards the dragon pit, because that's where the opponents are going to come from. If you had that knowledge, you wouldn't have had the flash. So, looking forward to see if they can build up a little bit more vision control.
Oh dear. That's another flash there from Alpha, and that's really the only thing the Lux can use to get out of the Cataclysm, so that is a critical summoner spell that is now unavailable for the side of Kerry Fan Club, and that could potentially keep Alpha alive. Another flag and drag over the wall there from the Jarvan. Is going to take a fair amount of damage back, but uses the Cataclysm, pops the Stoneblade as well. Is not going to be able to survive. The Tristana bomb will take it down. Corki Valkyrie over to the backline. How much damage can this Tristana put on right now? Absolutely untouched, but just unable to find the hits on the key targets. Meanwhile, Happy Feet is just running rampant on the enemy team. Tristana, the only one left alive against Happy Feet. A single Cathy and Rain there, taking the Tristana down to half health, and no matter how much you kite, my friend, you're gonna be going down. Goes Golden Happy Feet, popping the barrier. Renekton is gonna take that kill, and it's gonna be an ace for NUSNextBUS.
Big tempo for NUS. Now down to the Baron. It's a great fight for them. You saw the way they played that one out. And Zenarif had so much presence there. Being able to zone out Tristana to force Meimuno to take a back step away from the fight. Wasn't able to do very much for the team. Things are getting a little bit dicey in the Baron pit though. They might want to have the Renekton and tank this one up, not have the Corki be there. Getting pretty low. They should be able to get out with the Baron empowered recalls reset. They get to go to it. They get to have their pick of the litter. Either go towards the lanes or go towards the dragons, pick up some turrets, whatever they want to do. There are a lot of turrets still left available on the map for them to go and clear out. I think that should be the next focus with Kerry Fan Club, right? Because once you get those out to your turrets, you get so much more gold, and that accelerates you so much further, much more than just picking up the dragon will.
Yeah, man, speaking of gold right now, Kai'Sa is about 4,000 gold above anyone else, really, and about 3,000 gold ahead of the Tristana. Fight is going to begin. That's going to be a 3-man cataclysm right there. The catch is absolutely huge. So where's Kai'Sa in the front, tearing through that front line? That Braum, it means absolutely nothing to her. Killer Instinct for the double kill as well. Triple kill gonna be picked up. She's gonna move in onto Tristana, gonna pick up that quadra kill for Happy Feet. And NUSNEXTBUS with that Baron, they clean up Kerry Fan Club and they take the dragon as well.
Quadra kill for Happy Feet. So now they run into the mid lane. They're on this victory march. They're wearing purple. They have everything they need. All the stars are aligned for NUSNEXTBUS to rush through the mid lane to close out the game. And with still 4 alive, all they have to do is make use of this Demacian standard to go in to win out the grand finals of the Campus League.
That's gonna be game for NUSNEXTBUS. They pick up this series 2-0. It looked really close at the start of the game, but at this point, when they have that Kai'Sa online, 12, 0, and 4, look at that damage right there. Happy Feet, 28,000, picking up that quadra kill at the end. And really, it just finally able to close out that game, 8-18. MVP there, of course. Very good attempt as well from Kerry Fan Club, especially from the Tristana. Tried very best in those team fights, kiting and trying to space it out. But at the end of the day, Happy Feet in that mid lane was able to receive more gold, and with nearly a full build in her pocket, finds the MVP and carries her team to victory.
Now gets the win for the team. You can see all the medals stacked up. You gotta love it. You gotta love seeing that, especially on your mid lane Kai'Sa. You know, it's a big adaptation. Generally, you want to bring Corki to the mid lane, but instead Kai'Sa, with the big scaling, got so much tempo, so much momentum. You know, you even see the Hourglass enchant out from the Kai'Sa, but honestly, wasn't even necessary. Was in an aggressive position throughout the entirety of the game. Had that number. A good attempt from NTU, from Kerry Fan Club, but ultimately, I do feel like they took the short end of the stick because they gave NUS what they were looking for, the tempo that they were looking for. They got to play towards their own playstyle for sure, but that also meant that NUS got to play towards their playstyle. So hopefully this competition has given them the means to evolve and grow even better as more campus leagues come about in the future.
Yep, that's right. Definitely gonna look forward to seeing both teams participate in future campus leagues as well. Of course, congratulations to NUSNEXTBUS for winning themselves $650 as well as 5 Secretlab gaming chairs. And now they're gonna be not only are they gonna be able to play Wild Rift, they're gonna be able to play Wild Rift in comfort while sitting on those amazing Secretlab chairs at home. Gonna definitely love those. Of course, in second place, that's gonna be Kerry Fan Club. They're still gonna pick themselves up $450. Unfortunately for themselves, no Secretlab gaming chairs, although if they do want to up their game, they should totally go and get themselves some as well. This was wow. It was a lot of action, definitely, but I guess really the story is, you know, if it isn't broken, don't fix it. But if it is broken, you really should probably try something else.
Sure, you know, they had some issues they had to deal with. Of course, we've talked so much about it in depth at this point. They had to find some way to respond to it and deal with the issues that they had. Instead, they opted back to the same composition. They went for a Braum instead of the Nami. I don't think the Nami was the issue. Sure, there could be some argument to say that, yeah, you want some better disengage with the Glacial Fissure, but it's similar, right? It's a very similar build. And so that small difference was not what they needed to change. Instead, it was going to be the way they played the Mundo Olaf pickup. That's going to be a very big difference and big factor into how things were going to play out. So ultimately, you know, still a good attempt for them. That you can see some of the better idea of what they wanted to do in the second game was much closer. They were in good spots. They got nice catches with the Lux in the mid lane to be able to get that big fight in the beginning, you know, to equalize things, get the gold into a good spot. But ultimately, when you scale up and you take a look at the bigger picture, they didn't quite, I feel like they didn't quite have the tools to close out the game.
Yeah, that's right, of course. And now that all is said and done, it's time for both teams to recharge and rehydrate. And what better way to do that than with 100 plus? Take a sip of that and cool down, because now, even though it's raining in the morning, right now in the afternoon it's starting to feel very warm. And I think for myself, I'm just gonna head down and buy some 100 plus after this, because I really need it after this cast, because wow.
Games.
This
you gotta
game got me
rehydrate
all,
after some sweaty games.
yeah, exactly. Got me all flustered and stuff, and it's gonna be absolutely perfect, because you know you may think that, hey, just because you're in an aircon room, you know, everything's gonna be fine, but dehydration is also still possible, and that means that 100 plus is gonna be beneficial no matter what. You know, just because you're chilling in an aircon room doesn't mean you're not gonna be dehydrated, especially if you're playing games and always talking with your team. You know, you gotta keep that communications up as well. Don't want to run out of don't want to get a sore throat after a day of gaming either. So you want to definitely keep yourself hydrated, and especially, of course, if you're a caster like me or Granite, and Granite already has his 100 plus bottle in the background. Unfortunately, I do not, so I'm gonna need to get myself some after this cast. How was the 100 plus, Granite?
Just gotta flank that. Yeah, it's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
Make sure that you know that as well. So like you've said, of course, this whole broadcast has been brought to you guys by 100 Plus, the official beverage sponsor of the Campus League. And this has been organized by Elephant, the official partner of Riot Games in Singapore, and our official chat partner is going to be Secretlab. And that being said, we've come to the end of the grand finals of the Campus League Wild Rift, the very first season, brought to you guys by Riot Games. And we're going to end things off here, but it's a great win for NUS. NTU fought their hearts out, but they ultimately will come second place to them. It's been a bit of a ride for them. You know, they played up from the upper brackets, dropped down to the lower brackets, and then came back in for this grand finals. But ultimately, they can only be one. With that being said, guys, we're going to call it here. I'm gaming this up. With me is the Escape Artist, and we're going to see you guys next time.
Take care.
No one is promised tomorrow.
Playtime's over. They're mine now. Fear the assassin with no master.
Come on, you! Let's dance!
I'm on it, Black Shoe!
Time to strike!
You think you can outshoot me?
Captain Chemo on duty! Let's do it!
Delta Sierra at 12 o'clock!
Dust 'em, Pix!
Nothing a little gunpowder won't fix.